The sun burned like fire over the Arizona desert. The land was endless. No trees, no mercy, only silence and heat. A lone rider moved slowly across the dunes, his horse stumbling under the cruel sun. His lips were cracked, his eyes half shut. That man's name was Caleb Ross, a rancher from Texas who had been lost for 3 days with no food, no water, only hope dying with every mile. He had left his ranch to find a missing friend who never returned from the trading route. But fate took him down a road even the vultures feared to cross. The desert didn't forgive mistakes. The wind cut like blades, carrying whispers of the dead. Caleb's hat was torn, his throat dry like dust. He could barely lift his head when his horse collapsed in front of him. Breath gone, eyes wide open, dead. Caleb fell to his knees beside the body, the heat burning through his boots. He wanted to cry, but there were no tears left, just silence, and the endless golden waves of sand. He took one last look at the horizon, a blur of light and death, and began to crawl. Hours passed. His mind drifted between life and death, faith and madness. He thought of his home, the small wooden ranch by the river, the laughter of his little girl Emma, and the warm smile of his late wife Clara. Don't give up, Caleb. He could almost hear Clara's voice in the wind. But the wind was cruel. It carried no mercy, no water, no life. Just when his body started to give in, he saw something far away, a movement in the heat. A mirage, he thought. Maybe his mind was tricking him. But then he saw it again, a figure walking slowly against the sun, wrapped in dark fabric, moving like a ghost between the dunes. Caleb blinked hard, his vision blurred. When he opened his eyes again, the figure was standing above him, a woman, her skin bronze like the desert earth, her long black hair tied behind her head with a strip of red cloth. Her eyes were sharp, full of pain yet strength. She wore Apache beads around her neck, a mark of her tribe. The woman knelt beside him, her shadow falling over his face. Caleb whispered in a weak voice, "Water, please." She didn't speak at first. Instead, she touched his forehead with her hand, cool and soft against the heat. Then she opened a small leather pouch tied around her waist, but it was empty. She looked into his dying eyes, and for a moment, a storm of decision crossed her face. Then, without hesitation, she loosened her cloth top slightly and brought his head close. Caleb froze, realizing what she was doing, giving him the only thing she had to keep him alive. Her name, as he would later learn, was Nyara, an Apache widow who had lost her husband to a white man's war. She had been living alone in the desert for months, surviving off roots, cactus water, and faith. When she saw Caleb dying, her heart didn't see color or blood. It saw a human soul on the edge of death. Caleb tasted life again. The warmth revived his strength. His eyes fluttered open, and for the first time in days, he felt his heart beat strong again. He tried to speak, but she shook her head and pressed a finger to his lips, signaling silence. Her eyes said, "Rest, you're safe now." When he woke again, the sun was low, the sky bleeding orange. He was lying under a rock shelter, the air cooler. A small fire burned near him, and Nyara was grinding herbs beside it. She didn't look at him. Her face was calm, distant, but her movements were full of care. Caleb sat up slowly, pain cutting through his body. "You saved me," he said in a low voice. She finally turned her head and met his eyes. "Desert takes too much life," she said quietly. "I don't let it take one more." He stared at her, not knowing what to say. She was unlike anyone he had ever seen, strong yet broken, wild yet graceful. Her every movement had meaning. He wanted to thank her, but his throat closed. Sometimes gratitude is too deep for words. Night came slowly. The fire cracked between them. Caleb watched her from across the flames. The way her eyes reflected the firelight, the sadness that lived behind them. He wanted to ask who she was, why she lived alone, but something in her silence warned him not to dig too deep. After a long pause, she spoke first. "You walk with death," she said softly. "Why?" Caleb looked into the fire, thinking of his friend. "A man I knew disappeared crossing this desert. I went looking for him and got lost myself." Nyara's eyes softened. "Many lost souls in this land," she said. "Some never find their way back." He smiled faintly. "I almost didn't." She nodded slowly, her gaze on the fire. "You still might not. Desert tests every heart. It kills the weak and it changes the strong. For a long time they said nothing. The silence wasn't empty. It was heavy, filled with things neither could say. Caleb's mind was restless. He couldn't stop thinking of her. This mysterious Apache widow who saved his life with the only gift she had. A stranger who owed him nothing, yet gave everything. Later that night, while she slept curled near the fire, he sat up and looked at her face, peaceful and yet shadowed by sorrow. There were scars on her wrist, faint but deep, marks of a woman who had seen too much pain. He whispered, "Why would you save me?" But she didn't answer. The next morning, she gave him a piece of cactus bread and a small drink from a clay bowl. "You need strength," she said simply. He ate quietly, feeling the desert sun rise again. "Where will you go now?" he asked. "I go where the spirits take me," she replied. "But first you must leave this place. Before the heat returns." He hesitated. "I don't even know which way is home." She looked at the horizon and pointed. "Follow the sun half a day. You'll find a dry riverbed. Follow it east. It will lead you to life." He nodded, standing up slowly. But his heart felt heavy. He didn't want to leave her, this woman who had become a strange kind of miracle in his broken world. "Nayara," he said, his voice trembling, "if I ever make it out alive, I'll come back. I promise." She looked at him with those dark, steady eyes that held both the desert's cruelty and its beauty. "Promises are like the wind," she said quietly. "They move on, and they forget." Then she turned and walked away, her figure fading into the golden horizon, leaving him standing alone, alive but changed forever. As Caleb began his long walk toward the rising sun, every step felt like a prayer. The desert was still merciless, but his heart was no longer empty. Somewhere in the silence, he felt her presence, like a whisper carried by the wind, reminding him of the life she gave him,